So you can probably see that around me is this beautiful carpet of green. And just as I was walking up, I became so aware of not interrupting this beautiful gush of spring green, and was surrounded by bluebells that haven't quite fully come up yet. I think maybe in the next 2-3 weeks, this whole entire area will go from this beautiful carpet of green to this beautiful carpet of purple, blue, different colors. So inshallah, I pray that I'm able to come back and witness that as well. But as I'm walking and I'm seeing the green on the carpet, on the ground, and as I'm looking up, I'm also seeing the different shades of the new leaves that are coming through, the new spring leaves. And I think all of us can recognize that spring is the time for green. Like, it's the color that's associated with green. And green is one of my favorite colors. And it's one of those things that the first bit of information that I wanted to give anybody about me when I was a child was that my favorite color was green. Like, before they even knew my name, it was like, my favorite color is green. And I would wear green all the time. Anytime we were in school, I would want the green books, to a point where I always wanted to surround myself with green. And I think it kind of makes sense as to why I do the work that I do now, working in nature so much and being in nature so much. And I think part of that is because I just really like the color green, and any opportunity to surround myself with it makes sense. And so it was such a beautiful thing for me that one of the first things that I learned about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was that one of his favorite colors was green. And I remember learning this, I don't know, maybe I was about 7 years old. And I remember learning this and just becoming so chuffed that I shared this information with such an important person. And that was, I suppose, the beginning of me wanting to get to know the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam a bit more, purely because his favorite color was green. And so the more I learned about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the more I learned about the color green and kind of what it meant to me and how I brought it into my life, the more it made sense to me that this green color was associated and linked to the blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In color psychology, green is in the middle of the spectrum. So it comes in between the color blue and the color yellow. So it has both of those properties. It has a really balancing property. It's not too energizing, not too energetic, but then it's not too calming. And so you're able to have both properties. So if somebody's in a space and you need to calm them down, green is a beautiful way of trying to do that. But then on the other hand, if somebody's feeling very lethargic and very grounded, green can also be a means of energizing them as well. And I keep looking back at this green being balancing. I look at spring and how spring, which is the time for green, is a moment of a balance between warm, sunny days, a bit like today, or really rainy, wet days, and bringing those two places together to create this beautiful balance of spring, which creates even more green. It makes me think how Allah has explained and described the deen of Islam as being the middle way, about the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ being of the middle nation, of all of us being in the middle, not too much or not too little, just enough, the perfect combination. Just like the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the best in everything that he is, the best temperament, the best of those who spoke, the best of those who walked, how he was with his community. Everything was done in such a beautiful balance. Green. What a beautiful balancing color. It takes me back to the many, many years ago that I was studying biology and trying to understand the concept of color and what it meant. And I remember understanding that the color that we see an object is actually what the object is reflecting back. So when I start to apply that, particularly when we think about nature, I start to think we're seeing this green because all of this nature, all of this beautiful creation is reflecting it back to us. All these leaves and the grass and the flowers, they're absorbing all the light from the sunlight. taking from it what it needs, going through the whole process of creating energy and food. But it's almost like they know what we need, and they keep that for us. They reflect that back to us. So they take all the light and they reflect back to us green. And so in the spring, we're surrounded by these beautiful, what I like to see as like prophetic reminders, as the trees begin to wave like green flags of prophetic love, and the earth begins to be full of really young shoots of bright green. It's almost like the earth is celebrating this moment of spring and celebrating the love and the balance and the warmth of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To a point, I know that green is also used in hospitals. Maybe not so much now, but historically and traditionally, green was used to paint some of the walls, because green again was that offering of having the concept of being outside, but then also having this ability to balance. Again, I go back to that key word of balance, and to nurture, to fertilize, to revive, to renew, to give life. And I do honestly believe that spring is this time for nurturing. Spring is this time to reconnect. We spent the whole of winter in this space of retreat, in reflection. And now is this time for growth. Now is this time to nurture all those seeds that we've planted in order for them to grow even more. So although maybe we might not be able to be in a space of a forest and gaze upon every single shade of green, I personally have started to decide that I'm going to incorporate green in everything that I do. And maybe today I'm only wearing a green hijab, but I will continue to be experimenting with all the different shades of green in my house, in my home, in my garden, and everywhere that I find myself to bring green in. Not only because it's healing for me, and not only because it's balancing, but also because the color green reminds me of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it nurtures that love that I'm trying to nurture for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.